What's up, guys? Welcome back to the 5 Takeaways, a show about Carolina basketball. Switching it up a little bit. Going to do the show from an outdoor setting today. Carolina wins. They beat the number one team in the ACC, at least based on league standings, Clemson, by a score of 91-71. Huge win for the Tar Heels. If I could say, one sentence analysis to sum up the game, I would say exactly what we've been seeing. But wait, what do you mean, Ben? Carolina's been on a 3-game losing streak. They've looked terrible. Social media has imploded. Everyone hates the Tar Heels. Well, I mean, they shot the ball better today. The ball went in the basket. They scored way more points. They still had a pretty good defensive showing and defensive statistics. So I don't think the Tar Heels did that much different other than make the shots that they weren't making in the previous 3 games. And as a result, they looked great today and they were able to win the game. Let's jump right into the boxes today. Starting today, a green box for DeMarco Dunn. You could say a lot, and I think we will later on, about the amount of subs that came in today and when they played and how they played and how much they played. But I'm going to give a green box today for DeMarco Dunn because in the first half, there was a period, he made a shot, maybe he had an assist. I don't remember the specifics exactly, but he really, turned the tide, turned the momentum. It wasn't like we were losing by a bunch, but Clemson did get out to, I think, a 10-2 lead to start the game, and at that point, the game was still pretty much in the balance, maybe a 2-point game on either side, and he just showed the kind of fire and fight that I think we've been looking for from all the Carolina basketball players in this previous losing streak. So a green box for him. I mean, you look forward to, next year when we know there's going to be a lot of people leaving because they have to, and a lot of people leaving because it's their time to leave. DeMarco Dunn is a guy that's who's going to be scoring 20 points a game for us next year, and that's who we're going to almost rely on to keep us in games next year. So it was great to see him come in, have that energy, have that passion to win, passion for the school. Great for him. Again, there was just a stretch where he came in and he was like, hey, it's not just the starters, it's all of us, coaching staff, subs, starters. We have to turn this season around, and I just loved what I saw from him. So a green box for DeMarco Dunn. Second box today is going to be a green box for Caleb Love. Could have honestly also given this to RJ, but I'm giving it to Caleb because for whatever reason, if he and RJ are both having bad shooting games, it seems like Caleb gets more of the flack for it. So I'm giving him a green box just to show that, bad shooting nights happen, and when it's on, we live and die by Caleb Love. Caleb today finished with 23 points, 6 of 9 from three-point line, and a couple of those threes were heat checks that he probably shouldn't have taken. They weren't good looks, so he basically didn't miss today. He was awesome. He had a great assist to Armando in the second half on a nice fast break. He was just everything you hope from someone that is as skilled as Caleb Love. I'm so glad for him on a personal level that he had this game to kind of just relax a little bit. It's still the game that and you've been playing forever. It's still the game that you were good at in the past. It's just basketball. Just play it how how you can play it. And he did that today. The shots went in. I'm not saying he was playing bad in the previous games. The shots just weren't going in. Whatever the case may be, he had it today. Thank goodness for that. Green box for Caleb Love. Third box of the day is going to be a red box for Pete Nance. I'm not going to touch the Pete Brady comparisons because they're too easy almost. I think we've even talked about this on the channel. It's like, oh wow, the Tar Heels made it to the championship game last year. Take a drink. All that's changed in their starting lineup is like for like Pete for Brady, and they're bad this year. So obviously Pete is the problem. I don't want to say that, but today Pete just didn't have a great game. He finished with 0 points. He was 0 for 7 from the field and 0 for 3 from the 3-point line. I watching that, I wasn't like, oh, don't take that shot, Pete, because I know he can make the shots, and I don't think he's actively seeking out really bad shots. I think he's just in a bit of a slump. It just wasn't a good game for him, and that happens. I think he does a lot of other things for this team. I mean, he had 5 rebounds and an assist today. He didn't play that much. Of course, we have a post presence in Armando. It's not like we need him to dominate the glass or be our paint presence, but we would like him to score more than 0 points, I think, is how we can sum up what we would want from Pete Nance. So again, I'm not going to say he's bad because he's not Brady. I think they're different players, and he has done a good job this year overall in filling in that void. And again, if he averages 23 a game in the ACC tournament and in the NCAA tournament combined, then we're going to say, whatever, burn to the stake anyone who thought Pete Nance was a bad basketball player. You know what I mean? So I just don't want to get into this notion of he's bad. I don't think he's bad, and I don't think he's bad for this team. I just think he had a bad game. So a red box for Pete Nance. Fourth box today, let's go for a green box for Puff Johnson. Another bench player who's going to get a green box today along with DeMarco Dunn. Puff finished with 8 points. He was 2 of 4 from the three-point line. Also threw in 3 rebounds, assist, and a steal. Puff's another guy who it's like, yes, thank goodness. You can shoot. You can play basketball. You've been recruited to North Carolina. Prove it. Act like it, right? Like in this 3-game losing stretch, I talked a lot about last game, the Wake Forest game, of these bench players who come on and don't want to take the shot, don't want to commit the foul or the turnover and be the wrong guy or, make a mistake. Guys, we're down by 20. We need you to score. And I think you can see here in this Clemson game where we were up by a lot, especially in the second half, they're like, okay, if I make a mistake here, it won't cost us the game, so I'm going to play with a little bit more confidence and a little bit more freedom, and it results in better performances, things that help the team. So I hope, obviously, if Puff or DeMarco are watching this, what I would hope you guys would take away from this is, play with confidence, play with the thought in your mind that you are good enough to be on the court, and do what you would do if you were winning by 20. Right? If the shot doesn't go in and we're only up by 1 or we're down 6, the shot doesn't go in. But I'd rather you look for that shot and actively try and help the team rather than just be a warm body on the court who's, facilitating a screen or a pass to someone who's cold. Don't be afraid to look for your shot. And I don't think Puff was today. So a green box for Puff. For our fifth box today, there was a lot of options. I could have talked about the backcourt chemistry. There's been some social media buzz the past couple of weeks about that. I think RJ and Caleb are fine. And I think if you were even worried about that for a second, you are not completely mature enough for social media, and your sarcasm and media literacy levels are not where they need to be on the internet. So I'd ask that you improve that. I could also talk about our home court advantage. Aside from the Pitt loss last Wednesday, we are undefeated at home this year. And I think from what I could tell from the TV, the fans looked engaged. The players looked to be feeding off of the fans. I could make a box, and I thought I was going to make a box for our second 5 that you saw towards the end of the game. Dontrez Styles, DeMarco Dunn, Puff Johnson, Tyler Nickel, Jalen Washington. Well, one of those was not in. It might have been Puff. Seth Trimble was also in that lineup. That's your starting 5 for next year. Pretty much because of the mass exodus we're going to have this year. And they looked good. And on top of that, to segue into our fifth box, how about the fact that we had that starting 5 out for the last 4 minutes of the game against the number 1 team in the ACC? How about the fact that the Blue Steel came and played the last 30 seconds of the game against the number 1 team in the ACC? That's because we were winning by 20 or 15, for large parts of the second half. And it's because the preseason number 1 team in America showed up to play today. I'm making a green box. I'll make it a yellow box, I should say, for, call it our play style, call it the 3-point shooting percentage, call it live and die by the 3, call it our individual players, whatever you want to call it, a yellow box to round out this video for this current Carolina basketball team. When they're on, they can beat the number 1 team in the ACC by 20 points and bring in Blue Steel. Clemson, I don't have their statistics pulled up about who they've played this year, but you don't get to 10-3, luckily, and I don't think they have. I think they've played good basketball consistently this year. I think they're a very good team. Maybe their best player was in foul trouble. I'm not very familiar with their team. I just don't think it was their day, and I think it was Carolina's day. But my point is, this Carolina basketball team, the one that showed up today, is the team that could make the Final Four again this year, is the team that people thought would be the number 1 overall team this year. The last 3 games, they didn't make their shots. That's it. That's it. Maybe someone smarter than me or someone that watches more film than me would say, oh, it was this factor or that factor. They opened the broadcast today by saying it was the defense in the last 3 games that had let them down. Unless someone, tangibly proves me otherwise, I think I'm going to go the rest of this season thinking that 3-game losing stretch was a result of just poor shooting and just not making the open shots and not scoring enough points to even keep us in games or, to win games. Today, we did. As I open this video, I don't think we did that much differently. I think we were a little bit sloppy at times, but I also think we had good defensive intensity. I think our shot selection was poor at times, but I also think we were taking open shots and taking shots within the flow of the offense. Today they went in, and in the last 3 games they didn't. Maybe the, NCAA tournament run last year, they were going in, and between November and February last year, they weren't. I think this team, if the shots go in, they can play with anyone in the country and potentially beat anyone in the country. And if the shots don't go in, they won't get blown out, but it'll just be a debilitating, heartbreaking 7-point loss. So that's why it's a yellow box. Because at this point, all we can do is wait and see. We've got an insane schedule coming up. Miami on Monday night, NC State the following Sunday, and then I believe it goes Virginia-Duke to round out the season. So, time to put up or shut up, as I've said last game. But again, it's whether or not this team is feeling it and whether or not this team can put the ball in the basket. I don't think it's the play calling. I don't think it's the offensive rotation. I don't think it's team chemistry. I don't think it's defensive intensity. Maybe it's sloppiness, turnovers. Maybe it's shot selection. But for the most part, it's can they make the open shots? Today they did, and they looked incredible. They beat Clemson. That was a must-win, and of course they did. Let's keep it going. See you on Monday. Go Heels.